We're going to be dealing with the topic divine visions or sexual thoughts. And basically, this is going to be able to separate why did monks, holy men, and those who we call spiritual, why do they practice meditation? What is meditation? And what prevents you from being able to meditate? And I'll be making a couple points, but first I'm going to read these scriptures. And I'm going to be reading out the Upanishads. Okay, it says, to see oneself as not different from God is called jnana, or wisdom, right? So, to make the mind free from sensual objects is meditation, or dhyana. It says, the nectar of God, or Brahman, should be drunk. For the upkeep of the body, one should go about for alms and eat. He should dwell alone in a solitary place without a second. He should be with the sole thought of the non-dual one. The wise person who conducts themselves attains salvation. Now, this is a real important script right here, and I'm going to be dealing with many scriptures throughout the future, throughout documenting these ancient teachings. But it basically is trying to explain to you. It says to see oneself as non-different from God or your higher self is wisdom. That is what true wisdom is. There's a lot of different types of knowledge that you can get into. There's the higher and lower knowledge. The higher knowledge is basically realizing the truth of your own self before this material world came into existence. But what most people get obsessed with when it comes to truth is everything that has to deal with what's going on with creation or inside of the world. And the world itself is an illusion or is not real. So you can never find or isolate something that's true and something that's absolutely false. So the only real truth you're going to be able to get is the truth of what was in existence before creation, before the physical form came into existence. And that's God, and that's your own true self. When we say your own true self, we're saying, what do you identify with? Your body or your consciousness? Which one? And when you identify with your consciousness, your subconscious and superconscious mind, you identifying with your true self, because the body is going to decay and die. So there's many levels to yourself, quote unquote. The Eastern traditions, they break it down as your Atma, or Paraatman, your Jiva, your Ankar, and many different parts of your mind, like the Buddhas, Chitas, Manas, and Ankara. Now these are all different levels of who you are. And what I'm saying is you're not the Jiva, which is your body. You're not the Ankara, which is the ego, your mental idea of who you think you are. But you are the Atma, the Pada Atma, or the atom that's the spark of light inside of your body. That's who you truly are before you created this material world, before you created all of this matter and eventually gave birth to the physical body you in right now. You were at one point without a body. So, and what that would mean is you didn't do anything that's necessarily human either. You didn't think like a human or move like a human either. That comes from the Ankara and the Jiva, the body. But to explain this quote right here, it says to see oneself as non-different from God is true jnana or wisdom. Check. And that would be the brow realm, the brow chakra called the Ajna chakra. And so I'm going to keep reading. It says, to make the mind free from sensual objects is dhyana. So to make the mind free, the mind, brow chakra, right, free from sensual objects. The sensual objects are actual physical thought forms. Now you got them from your ancestors through your genes. Because remember, the whole way that you were born and the whole way of your creation was through many ancestral couples procreating, and having sex. And when they had the original sex act gave birth to a thought. And that desire to have that sex act again, that pleasure again, from generation to generation, has compiled a whole bunch of different genes and mental impressions inside of your brain and inside of your body, inside of your nervous system, your spinal column. But at the point of the soul ready to get liberated and leave this physical world, the soul has to do introspection on those impressions, because if the mind is filled with, it says sensual objects, meaning these actual physical thought forms that are about different aspects of sex. So it could be a female's body, it could be sex that you had, sexual memories, it could be your fantasy, sexual fantasies, all these different things. And we know that these sexual thoughts are without your control, because when you go to sleep, you can have all kinds of sexual fantasies, right? So what we're saying is you got to get your soul to override the subconscious mind, which is even more powerful than your conscious mind, your ego that you're using right now. And how you do that is meditation. But you have to understand that those thoughts are the foundation of all of your other sensual objects, or your other objects that are in your mind, like materialism. No male too much cares about materialism or wealth or luxury unless it's to get a mate. Because other than that, to be honest with you, I know me personally, and anybody, what the hell is the point of a whole bunch of money and riches if it ain't to get a female? That would be my only motive. I mean, I wouldn't, what's the point? Who I got to impress? Who do I got to take care of? So once you are able to cut the illusion of that, which takes a spiritual practice and it takes a lot of seeking, you'll be able to realize what's keeping you from God. And once you get to that level of awareness, you realize through study and through practice what you have to do. You have to cut out those sensual thoughts out of your mind, those sensual objects, because they are the root that intertwine with all of the other thoughts that will lead you to this, into the world and away from spiritual enlightenment. And it says to make the mind free from sensual objects is meditation. So for everybody saying that they are spiritual and that they pray and that they meditate, how can you pray or you meditate when your mind is so filled with, your mind is distracted? So you meditate, but you're meditating hoping that you can find a way to get sex. You see, so your mind ain't meditating on God, you see, or your mind ain't meditating on the truth, your true self, your soul. Your mind is meditating on the body, trying to compensate on different methods and angles and tricks and schemes of how it can get money and sex. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna meditate on how I can get a wife, or how I can, get self-improvement, like the New Age movement and all of these spiritual movements, they all into self-help. So you got self-help books, you got The Secret. All of that is not true spirituality, because what they doing is they trying to superimpose or use your weaknesses, your spiritual weaknesses, against you to make money. That's all it is. Because they know these ancient teachings give you the pathway to be able to get spiritual enlightenment and awakening. But what happens is they'll use the very thing that's keeping you from getting spiritual awakening and sell it to you, because they know that that's what you're addicted to, that's what you're obsessed with. So all your routes to be able to get spiritually liberated are blocked off, totally blocked off. And they know that you're going to be looking for a way to get spiritually liberated and find the truth. So what they do is they meet you on that path of where you're walking, and they sell you your addiction back to you, and they call that God. So the point is, materialism, anything that's hedonistic or of the world or of pleasure is not necessarily going to give you spiritual awakening. So that's why it says to make the mind free from sensual objects. All meditation is freeing your mind from these sensual objects. That's all it is. So if you want to know why you're having a hard time meditating from day to day or from week to week, well, I'm giving you an answer. I'm telling you. You may have been praying for this or wondering why you can't keep on a spiritual path and stay spiritually minded or stay in a spiritual state, in a higher state of consciousness. It's because your mind is filled with sensual objects, with sex objects. So you'll wake up with your mind on it. In the middle of the day, your mind might think, okay, I need to go to work so I can get money, so I can make sure I secure the sex. And then when you get home at night, your mind is on a sensual object. So your mind every day is on those sense objects, those sexual objects. So it could be 365 days of the year, every single morning, evening, and night. For 365 days of the year, for the next 30 years of your life, your mind can be consumed with sensual objects, sex objects. Because that's how pervasive and how much of an impression these pleasure genes are in us, these chromosomes and these genes. And those mental objects that we call them sensual objects, every object that can be on your mind when you meditate, because remember the third eye, or the brow chakra, the Ajna chakra, is the realm of imagination. So you can imagine any form, when you close your eyes, you can imagine any form or shape that you desire. But what the Eastern yogis and holy men are saying is you have to be able to find a shape that's holy enough to lead you to unravel the mystery of this reality. So it has to be a sattvic or a divine form in your brain when you are meditating. But if it's a rajasic, which is a worldly or sensual, or it's a tamasic, which is a evil or dark or low thought, then you're just going to open your eyes and go back into the world, because your meditation is going to disturb you. You see what I'm saying? You're going to get aroused. You're going to get seduced by your own thoughts. And that will distract you, and you realize you're going to have to take action to go and get that sexual desire gratified. So it says to free the mind of sensual objects, that is meditation. So meditation, what is meditation? Meditation is the practice of trying to get self-realization or realization of God within inside of your body. That's what meditation is, dhyana. Dhyana, the word D, like D-H-Y or D-H-I, means consciousness or intellect itself. It means light or illumination. So this is where you get the word Dios from. Dios means God, or Theos or Dios. That means literally God, but it means beings of light. So you have your devas, that term deva, which means deity, and deity, even the word deity or day, all that means is light. But that basically is God. So when you say dhyana, you're saying the practice of keeping or cultivating prana or light inside of your body. But you can't do that if the sexual objects take that consume that form of light and drive your hormones, which is dopamine, adrenaline, testosterone for females, estrogen. Take these hormones and it makes you so disturbed. It disturbs what your genes, your nerves, your nervous system, and drives you to find methods to get away from meditation, because the meditation will disturb you if you have these sensual objects in your brain. But it says the nectar of God should be drunk. So while you're meditating, the nectar of God should be drunk. What is the nectar of God? It's the secretion of hormones like melatonin and these higher states of consciousness. Remember, you got gamma, alpha, beta, theta, these different wavelengths of consciousness that you go into when you sleep and when you wake and when you meditate, when you go into a trance. You go into these states, and those states are based on different parts of your brain lighting up with that D. Remember that dhyana? Well, different parts of your brain light up. So when your whole brain is lit up, or one side of your brain is lit up, you secrete hormones through your neurotransmitters and through your pituitary gland, your penile and pituitary gland. And these hormones, they secrete and they go throughout your body and they give you different states of consciousness. So it says the nectar of God should be drunk. So you should drink that nectar. So that's when you go into the spiritual world, or close your eyes, you should look for the nectar of Brahman or God. And the only thing that's impeding it or getting in the way from day to day, from your spiritual path, from your spiritual seeking, is the sensual thoughts. If your mind is consumed in pornography or porn, and you're watching too many videos online, or you too social, meaning if you're social and you're in the world, they're going to get you all mixed and mingled in their thoughts, which are going to be the basic human impulses, which we got from our ancestors. So that's going to keep you in this cycle of this world, just the thoughts and conversations alone. So you have to be able to find a way to isolate yourself, at least to give yourself an opportunity to see if what I'm saying right now is true, and be able to taste that nectar. That nectar is called Sat, Chit, Ananda. That means truth, meaning you taste the truth. You taste Sat, Chit. Chit means consciousness. Ananda means bliss. So Sat, Chit, Ananda. So you got to find a way to get to that Sat, Chit, Ananda, which is that bliss. It says for the upkeep of the body, one should go about for alms and eat. So only for the upkeep of this body should you go and look for alms. Alms means receive donations of food. So, and eat. So that should be basically, once you get to the highest level of your spiritual practice and you reach spiritual enlightenment, that should be your only root chakra activity, or your only activity. It's basically to be able to eat for the upkeep of the body. Other than that, you doing spiritual devotion and spiritual practices, which is many things. I'll get into that in the future, but that's going to lead you to salvation or spiritual liberation. Liberate your soul from this body, because eventually this body is going to die. I say this a lot, but we got to keep, like a mantra, these ideas in your mind and keep you focused on this path. But it says he should dwell alone in a solitary place without a second. Now, why is it talking about this solo? Well, like I told you, with socializing, that's the very opposite of being solo. Because when you socialize, you get all mixed and mingled with these thoughts. And remember, humans are social creatures just like every other primate or animal. Well, most animals, but definitely primates. We're social creatures. So it disturbs our nervous system and our body. It makes us depressed or makes us disturbed when we can't socialize or talk and have the secretion of these hormones, like the bonding hormone, that make us feel like we're safe or that we are a part of reality, that we're not left out. But you have to be able to get control over those hormones and reject those thoughts and keep your mind centered on God and stay solo. Because when you socialize, either they're gonna resent you or you're gonna eventually resent them based on having different thought patterns or different vibrations of consciousness. So you got to be able to separate yourself, like it says. He should be with the sole thought of the non-dual one. Now, the non-dual one is God or Brahman. Now, you have to understand, in the Eastern philosophy, in their mythology as well, or cosmology, you have the Purusha, which is the God that is non-dual, that has no division, is only one. And that Purusha is split up and divided into all of these different forms, sentient beings and non-sentient beings throughout the whole cosmos. So there is the true God, which is the true living one being that everything in this whole cosmos makes up the body of. And then there's the body, which is the cosmos, the physical world. So imagine that you are your true self, like you are who you think you are, but the universe is your dream. Well, the dream is what you gotta reject. So in the dream, everything becomes divided into duality. So you have to reject the duality and be able to get unification with your own true self. It says the wise person who conducts himself thus attains salvation. So the person who is able to find and get rid of the duality of this universe, which is the illusion, all of these forms and shapes that coming at you that end up as objects in your mind. If you're able to overcome those realms of duality, then you get salvation, or you liberate your soul. So the main thing that causes the first thought of division, of duality in your mind, is sex off the gate. So for you to be able to realize God, the sexual objects in your mind are a wall or are barriers from you being able to realize the truth, that all forms are just an illusion, that all really is God, and you yourself is that original one consciousness, right? So realizing this isn't just talking about it or reading about it in a book. For you to realize this, you have to actually practice this, and what is realized, nobody can really tell you. You have to experience it for yourself. And it's an experience. It's called samadhi, nirvana, moksha. It's a state of consciousness that cannot really be explained. It's like a heroin addict or a cocaine addict or crack addict trying to explain to you, somebody who's been sober all your life, what the high is like. They can't tell you. They're just like, you got to experience it for yourself. So you got to experience this for yourself is what I'm saying. But all I'm telling you is, if whatever you really think that you're trying to desire or seek is God, really, at the end of the day, because everything else is going to fall short. So when you finally get to that end of that road and you found God, you're going to realize it's just an experience that really cannot be explained. It's an intoxication. And so I'm trying to show you the path and show you what gets in the way of the path. So these objects in your mind, remember, the mind is called the pool or the sea, the pool or the sea of manas. Manas means mind, your mental or your mind. And inside of that manas, inside of that pool, you have what are called vrittis, which are waves, impressions. Impressions are waves, vrittis. And these vrittis can be good, meaning they can give you good memories and good thoughts, but they can also be what are called vasanas. Vasanas basically are negative mental impressions that hinder you from being able to realize God. So you have to burn up that pool, heat up the pool to get the pool to be calm without all of those waves that disturb you and keep you from being at peace or being focused when you're meditating. And those vasanas, the main major ones, are the desire for material objects, which is materialism and money, and sensual objects, which is sexual images or sexual desire. And it all springs really from your gut and from these lower chakras, these lower realms. It literally comes from testosterone being lifted up throughout the solar cycle, through day in and day out when the sun rises, and it takes over your whole mind and your whole consciousness through your spinal column, through your nervous system, and these hormones latch on to these different parts of your brain, and they create images, they project images, and just like somebody that's possessed by like a demon or a succubus or incubus, whatever, these thoughts basically consume your liberty from being able to have your own thoughts. And you as your ego begins to identify with the thought. You think, oh, that's me thinking that. But no, that's not you. You really are the pure, absolute God beyond duality. But because you've had so many generations, so many lives through so many generations of living through your ancestors, you begin to identify those genes, this body and this brain and this nervous system with yourself. And you begin to identify with it. And once you identify with those sexual thoughts, you enter into the realm of duality, because you think that the female that you're thinking about, or the imaginary female in the future, or the porn artist, is something that is outside of your own self, your own soul. So when you do that, it becomes what? Division. And you're now in the realm of duality. You split the cosmos into pieces, into twos. And once you split it into twos, you split it into fours, you split it into eights, and you just start dividing everything up into pieces. And from that point on is where everything that is sorrow and warfare and oppression and all of these different issues that the world has, it all sparks from that thought right there in your brain, right there in your mind. So it says, one more time, to make the mind free from sensual objects is meditation. So if you want to know why it's hard to meditate from day to day, well, most likely it's because of these sensual objects, because you are possessed. And your mind is consumed because of these ancestral genes in your body from being free to be able to seek God. But me making you aware of this should be able to help you clean out your mind and get free to be able to sit in peace and dwell on your true self, your higher self. And there is no pleasure or bliss higher than that bliss, because that bliss is beyond this material world. You realize that, like a video game, you pause the video game and you wake up to real life, and you realize that video game is interesting, it's fun. Your life may be interesting or fun, but it's just a game. You have to become the person playing the game, pause the game, turn off the game, and go into your real life, which is way much more immortal and beyond our comprehension as avatars in a game. Your avatar in a game, Mario in the game, don't too much know what it's like to be the person that created the game is playing the game. Mario don't know what it's like to be you, but you know what it's like to be Mario. So you have to become the person that is playing the game. Pause it and wake up. Turn off the game, shut the game off, and realize the game is just distracting you from these higher realms of bliss, these immortal realms, where your soul actually is, what your soul and your spirit actually is. And so, like I said, to make the mind free from sensual objects is meditation. So, there we go. Peace.